definitions of marriage. One is to have a woman behind you, and one is to have a woman in front of you, right? The old definition is actually like 2,000 years old, is to have a woman in front of you, because she makes you more of a man, right, Zoe? Because you gotta know. You got to know exactly what you're doing and prepared with a retort just in case she bitches, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a matter, of course, like you're a bachelor.
Right.
Come on, give me a break.
That's why we came here.
Be your best, feel your best, live your best.
Yeah.
And a good suit will help you feel your best.
Yeah.
Without caffeine, nicotine. Who would have thought that this must be illegal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have a suit made.
Yeah. It does. You put on a nice suit and it changes how you feel.
Yeah.
For sure.
To the shoulders.
And then down.
And then down.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you're very rare to see a proper silhouette these days.
Yeah.
And that's all tailoring is. It's that and your X factor. You know, from the shoulder points to the bottom of the hem, you have this where it opens on the button.
Right.
The button is where the middle of the X.
Yep. Yep.
And it should stay closed without button.
Yeah.
That's good
Because
tailoring.
well, you were showing us last time, we were talking about that, and most of the time they just open now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like that one that we were looking at with the Hugo Boss one. Like as soon as it opens, it just flaps open, right?
Yeah.
As soon as it's unbuttoned, and yeah, it'd be nice to just
Yeah.
have it so it still sits properly even when it's not buttoned up.
Yeah. And most will open up because, can I say, the elements are flat piece of cloth and sewing and hand tailoring.
Yeah.
Now you have to have the right proportion of sewing and hand tailoring to shape the garment so that it's part of the body.
Yeah.
When it's not part of the body, it doesn't have all the curves, it opens up.
Yeah.
So, and the first thing a salesman will do is button it up there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nice and good.
everyone's
Yep.
wearing it.
Yeah.
Tailored,
This is how it is.
tailored like there's no such thing as a person that's a real tailor. It's tailored. That's the style. It's a word,
Yeah.
and if you don't have it, you got to pay. You gotta,
I think added to that is a lot of times we, for example, the business that I'm in, so banking, so a lot of guys are wearing the suits. It's understood that you always have it buttoned up. So you're never even given that opportunity to let it be unbuttoned and notice that sort of flaw where it always kind of flops up because everyone has this. It's always buttoned up. The only time they ever unbutton is when they sit down.
Well, I like the idea of formality and protocol and, discretion being, buttoned and, trim collar. It's just not always practical.
Correct.
Yeah.
And guys are practical till the cows come home. And we're not always on the suit movie set, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice that there is a following, even if it's from the 60s rather than the 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, the other day, my fiance asked me just how much the suit was going to cost me. Like after we had the vest and the shirt and stuff like that. So I kind of tallied it up for her. And one, I was a little I know the quoted price that you gave me, and then when you add all the incidentals and stuff like that, even like a tie and pocket square if you do one or anything like that, it's getting up there, right? But then I was thinking about it, and I was talking to her today, and it's like the wedding is kind of like the gateway into the rest of our lives. Why wouldn't I want to be as best dressed as I've ever been in my life? And then I mean, I get to keep it and actually use it. Unlike the wedding dress, I actually get to use my suit, on and off over the next number of years. And yeah, being the best dressed guy there, the day's about me and her. So
Yeah.
and I mean, honestly, if I just had like a rented tux or something like that, I mean, it would look okay, right? I mean, you put just even a bad fitting suit on a guy who just usually wears like jeans and a t-shirt, he's gonna look better than that. But having something tailored and handmade for me, I'm gonna be on par with her, which I think will match much better and give much better balance for the day.
The weddings are always for the women. And it is in a way, you're there to serve. The DNA that we
This is
have.
true.
They have what, exchangeable chromosomes?
Yeah.
How do they do that? We got like a small X and a large Y and all these empty sites.
Yeah.
That can be interpreted as what, we're versatile. We're creative. We can remake our own sites.
Mhm.
But apparently it applies to women's brain use too.
Really?
So they have, because they have a smaller cranium, they've had to use both sides of the brain in better balance.
Mm.
So, we can take full advantage of that. But getting back to...
I love our little tangents all the time.
This is going to make the chest a little bigger here, kind of hide the belly a little bit.
Always good.
Give you a new lease on the body.
Yep.
We're going to shape this down here a little bit because you'll have a fuller chest and it'll come down over the waist
Mm-hmm.
and shape here and then go down to a smaller hip. Have a nicer silhouette, nicer profile. Tailoring by itself is actually ergonomic because people are buying less crap that's good for how long, I don't know. Less, in the old days it would be called schmatas or rags, right? So they do turn into rags at some point. And that's a lot of wasted energy, and that creates a higher demand for energy. So as well as Mr. Musk's idea of building up the auto industry the way it should be, to expedite it by selling through online. It would, the two in parallel would be high tech and low tech. I think it's part of a potentially new lifestyle going. As far as people, losing their jobs, I'm not so sure it's going to be overnight by any means, but certainly there's lots of opportunity when you create your own work rather than go looking for a handout for a job. There'll always be people that can benefit from from looking for a job. But at a certain point, you've got to learn what there is to learn and move on.
I have looked around for ascots just because I thought it was something interesting. I wear a bow tie. Everyone says I wear it well.
Yeah.
I can continue to wear it. So I was like, wow, where do I go? We've talked about this for quite some time. But an ascot, how interesting would it be to have, just to try and see what it's like?
I do like to do something a little different in the tie department. We've made some really soft ties, like non-20th century, that are lovely. It's a nice little detail. It's certainly out of the box. The ascot's very much associated with the smoking jacket, and that leisurely, that doesn't have the business. It doesn't have the business ethic of a knot.
Correct.
And that commitment to the knot and a trim collar. And so you can't do any navel gazing. None of that. You'll choke before you get to your navel. So that's a good question. But for a wedding, having something that's a lovely gesture that's different. The tie sets are very good. Changing one to a bow tie for the groom I think is great. And the groomsmen would get just the regular ties. It picks up the texture nicely.
It does.
So there's your set of colors right there, and with the girls popping in the big picture.
Yep.
Yeah. Great for occasions. Not necessarily a workhorse. Maybe in the States it would be if you have a number of suits. But I think you'd find this quite cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's very light.
You were a little concerned about the additional adding on the trimmings, that kind of thing. And that's and you were justifying it by you're amortizing this over a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's something that you can wear more of.
Exactly.
So, so really you're showing more respect for the bride that's not going to be wearing that for
Yeah.
her next wedding.
Yeah.
You know, it's a funny thing about relationships, I think. Sometimes when you make these minor decisions, you know, decisions that are more minor than the ones that she's been making, everything else, you know, it's really taking the burden off her,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's really not there to be responsible for something that's that subjective. No one's going to say, well, I don't like that, you know. No one's going to point that out.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right,
Yeah.
right? Especially if it's within the elements of harmony of the whole group. So sometimes you have to make some decisions.
Yep.
Major decisions like a tie.
Mhm.